Okay, welcome into the roundtable. I'm Brad Wakai. That's Tyson Gentry kicking off another divisional breakdown. If you haven't seen our NFC South breakdown, go check it out on our YouTube channel. Today, NFC West breakdown. Tyson, it's a big division. I know you're excited for it.
This is my favorite division in football. I mean, it has been for a couple of years. We'll see. This is going to be a fun one, man. We got the defending Super Bowl champs. We have the first rookie I can remember in a minute to be drafted number 3 and not get to play for a whole year. We don't know what Trey Lance is. The Cardinals, we dove into a little bit what we think is going to happen on our Kyler breakdown. And then we have Seattle, who new era fighting for worst team in the league. They don't know that they're going to be bad, but I think the rest of us do.
Absolutely. So this division produced the Super Bowl champs last year, the Los Angeles Rams. So out of respect, we're going to start with them in this division. The LA Rams coming off a 12-5 2021 regular season record, winning the Super Bowl over the Cincinnati Bengals. Obviously coached by the boy genius Sean McVay. Matthew Stafford comes back for his second season. And if you didn't watch our last video, what we're going to do, kind of give a little breakdown to give our best case, worst case, and realistic expectations for each team. Now, Rams obviously coming off a great season. I mean, storybook season. McVay finally gets that monkey off his back. Stafford, looked at in a different light getting that championship. Seems like this is kind of, hey, boys, let's go all back in one more time. And it feels like this may be the season. Donald may retire after. McVay maybe looks for a different job after this, broadcasting or whatnot. He's hinted at it before. I don't know if that's actually accurate. That's just been hinted at, and it kind of is the feeling around, I think, the outside of what the Rams locker room is, where, hey, great season last year. Let's do it. Let's go all in one more time, see if we can get another one, and whatever happens after that.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what's going on, or at least that's the way it seems, which, by the way, would be such a shame if Aaron Donald were to walk away within the next 6 years. Like, I want to watch this guy play as much football as I can, selfishly, obviously, because he can do whatever he wants, and I'm not going to be the one that's able to stop him. But as far as the Rams go, I think, to me, it almost doesn't feel like they're getting the reigning defending Super Bowl champ excitement and hype that everybody else seems to get after winning a Super Bowl. I think it's because the offseason was so wild. At the start there, we had Brady retire, unretire, everybody getting traded wide receiver-wise. The AFC West is now, the hot stove as far as talking points for the NFL. And the Rams have just been chilling. They lose Von Miller. Odell Beckham, we don't know if he's going to come back, obviously recovering from a torn ACL in the Super Bowl. Van Jefferson did go down in practice the other day, so maybe that opens the door for a return. But the Rams are going to look a little different, which is fine. And I think people need to kind of wake up to the fact that this team just won the fucking Super Bowl.
Yeah, they're really good. I mean, you kind of showed or mentioned some of the players they lost. Obviously, Von Miller, I think a big one that people aren't going to kind of think about. Andrew Whitworth, their starting left tackle for a long time, retired. Austin Corbett's gone. Sony Michel, running back. He wasn't great when he got traded over, but that's another departure in the running back room that's seen some injuries and decline in production. But I think a big one, honestly, Johnny Hecker, their punter, who I think is the best punter in the league, he left. He's gone out of that LA locker room. I think that's going to be an underrated thing, especially regarding the special teams. But I love the addition of Allen Robinson for this team.
This is huge.
Apparently, the coaches are in love with him right now. Sean McVay's in love with Allen Robinson, and I think for good reason. And let's not forget, they have added Bobby Wagner as well. So they got blue-chip players on the D-line. Obviously, Aaron Darnold, Bobby Wagner. I know he's a little older, but he's still a stud at that linebacker spot. And then Jalen Ramsey at corner. So they're stacked.
Do you remember what the Rams offense looked like the year they went to the Super Bowl with Jared Goff, and how we were all kind of like, holy smokes, when it's Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp? Well, now it's Matt Stafford instead of Jared Goff, and it's Allen Robinson instead of Robert Woods. And I know that people are like, well, Allen Robinson fell off. He had a bad year. Watch the tape. Go watch Chicago Bears football. To me, it kind of looked like he checked out. Maybe he has lost a step, and I'm wrong. I don't think so. I think Allen Robinson is walking in here, Pro Bowl level player that now is going to take a bunch of pressure off of Cooper Kupp. And I think Allen Robinson's addition is huge because Cam Akers is still battling back from an Achilles injury. He came back super soon and everyone was shocked. and then he wasn't very good. And Darrell Henderson is a good player, good at what he does. He's hurt all the time, and he's not a bell cow guy. And they're kind of just, Sean McVay said it seems like we have 2 starting running backs right now. It doesn't to the rest of us. Like, these guys have to show us. And if you think back to those Jared Goff teams when, things were rolling well, it's because Todd Gurley was getting heavy usage and dominating games. And that's what they thought they're going to have with Cam Akers. And if he's back to form, this might be the best team in football.
Yeah, and so let's talk about that best case then. I mean, if everybody's healthy, everybody's rolling, I think you're right. They're going to win a lot of games. They're going to be the number 1 seed in the NFC best case scenario. If everything clicks, Matt Stafford's second year there with McVay, add in another piece in Allen Robinson, defense continues to stay healthy, offense continues to stay healthy. I think there is no question that this team should be eyeing a repeat championship and a repeat trip to the Super Bowl.
Absolutely. Best case scenario is Super Bowl champions. It's just too much talent. They look like a damn all-star team. And they're 1-point dogs last time I looked to Buffalo to start the year. And if you want to get into the market early, you want the defending Super Bowl champs at home to start the season, I don't care who they're playing. It could be the 08 Patriots after they go undefeated. It's the defending Super Bowl. Like, there's just no respect anywhere for these guys. Best case scenario, they're lifting another one.
Now, worst case scenario, I think there is a chance this thing could go a little sideways. And we talk about regression a little bit. This is kind of a big regression point in terms of health. They were the 5th healthiest team in 2021. And in a vacuum, that's a huge deal. But McVay, since he's taken over the Rams, they've literally been the healthiest team in his 5 seasons, now 6th season as head coach in the National Football League. So they could regress. We said that every year, and they just haven't. I don't know what's going on in that Rams locker room. They just don't get hurt. Maybe it comes crumbling down this year, but that could be something to keep an eye on. Plus 19 sack margin in 2021. They got a different offensive line. We'll see how congruent that thing is early on. So that's something to keep an eye on as well. But, worst case scenario, what? They don't win the division, and the 49ers, who we'll talk about next, are really good. And it just doesn't work out for the Rams. I still think this is a playoff team. But I think worst case scenario, finish second in this division here. And, they got what? A 5-6 seed instead of a 1-2 seed.
That's what I've been running through in my head all day, thinking of worst case scenarios. And it's 10 or 11 wins. I don't think I can get below that number realistically. And because we do this without, forecasting Matt Stafford to miss 16 of the 17 games or whatever. But I think that if Cam Akers isn't good on his way back, Henderson can't stay healthy. The narrative for some reason is that Cooper Kupp is going to lose a step somewhere. That's not how he beats people, so that doesn't make – he's fine. Maybe Allen Robinson isn't he's the guy that was on the Bears a year ago. Bobby Wagner's washed. Aaron Donald's his heart's not in it. Whatever. They're still so ridiculously talented across the board. I could see a wild card spot at like absolute worst case, but I don't think that the worst. I think the best case is far more realistic than the worst.
Yeah, and they have the second hardest schedule based
right
on win
now.
Total projections. Right
and
now,
those things change. It'll be different week 3.
Now they are playing the AFC West this year, which innately makes their schedule more difficult. But you expect that after you win the Super Bowl, you're going to have a very difficult schedule to play a first place schedule. But they're also a great team. That's why they won the Super Bowl. As far as realistic expectations for me, I fully expect them to contend for an NFC Championship game this year. You got everybody back, basically. I mean, obviously, you lose the key players we mentioned. There's some of the players. But the core is still there. Matt Stafford's still there. He's a major upgrade at quarterback position from what you've had. It's his second year there. And I expect this team, if we think everything goes right and even some things go a little bit wrong, to have the talent enough to get to the NFC Championship and compete for the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's where I'm at as well. It's just what you said there is one of the reasons that I'm getting upset with people not giving these guys any respect is that Matt Stafford did this in year 1, right? When Tom Brady did it in year 1, it was like pretty crazy, right? And we gave him a ton of flowers. But that's Tom Brady. That was Tom Brady's offense. Like him and Bruce Arians were hand in hand in building that thing. And, Sean McVay and Matt Stafford seem to work pretty well together, but it's going to be better. It's just going to be better. It's year 2 in the system. So I think realistically, if they're not playing for an NFC title game, I think it would be a letdown in LA.
San Francisco 49ers, the team who lost to eventual Super Bowl champion Los Angeles Rams. 10-7 in the regular season, had an up and down year. Big changes at quarterback, going with their aforementioned third overall pick, Trey Lance. This is going to be his first season as a full starter. Jimmy Garoppolo still on the roster, but they're trying to find a trade partner for him. Kyle Shanahan's sixth season. There's a lot of variance, I think, of where this team can go this year. Losing Laken Tomlinson, offensive guard, losing some key players at the defensive position, DJ Jones, Arden Key, they're gone. And Raheem Mostert, who was their running back one, now he's in Miami. It's 49ers for you coming into this season. New look at QB.
This was the team that I picked to win the Super Bowl a year ago, preseason, just to let everyone know how I feel about the Niners. I said it then, I love Kyle Shanahan. I love the way they play football. This is the most volatile team going in the NFL right now. Like this, if Trey Lance is bad, this team's going to be really bad. It just is. And if he's good, this team's going to be really good. And I know that sounds obvious, but, not every team in the NFL is built like that. Like, there are teams that win in spite of quarterback play, not because of. And the Niners aren't good enough to be one of them. I think what you mentioned with losing Mostert, I think, obviously he didn't play last year, but drafting Tyrion Davis-Price in the third round, I think he's perfect for the zone kind of running scheme that they use. I think that San Francisco this year is going to be one of those teams that you're going to have to watch all 17 games because there are going to be some runs here. I think they might lose 3 in a row and turn around and win 6. It's just this is one of those kind of teams, I think.
With Jimmy Garoppolo, Kyle Shanahan's gone 31-14 in the regular season and 36-16 in the playoffs. Without him, he's gone 8-28.
Yeah.
Backup hasn't had as much talent as Trey Lance on paper or on film or however you want to call it. But it's been a struggle for Kyle Shanahan without Jimmy Garoppolo. And I know people hate him, but the guy's won in this league. He hasn't won the big one, but he's proven he's a winner. 2 NFC championship games, 1 victory there. So it's going to be interesting to see what Kyle Shanahan does with Trey Lance, especially as a first-year starter in the NFL. I'm
predicting a ton of RPOs, right? And a ton of Trey Lance keeping the ball on run option plays. I think the common thing, we're going to hear a ton, this looks like a college offense. But it's not going to, right? It's going to be super sophisticated. There are going to be a whole lot of things going on. But I think that they're going to have to kind of, I won't say dumb it down, but change the way that the offense gets the ball to its skill position players. Because with Jimmy Garoppolo, those zone reads aren't working. The only time they work is if you ran it 16 times and Eli Mitchell got the ball 15, right? But I think with Trey Lance, I don't think Trey Sermon's dead yet either. I think that's something people might need to pay attention to.
Oh, man,
I think the dude sucks, but I think that he might pair pretty well with Trey.
I don't know.
I think
Shanahan
that's what
hates
this is going to be. This is going to be a learning period for the entire team. And if camp reports are to be believed, Trey Lance isn't ready to win a Super Bowl. I don't think camp reports mean shit at this time of the year for the most part. But I will say, I think those people were probably chomping at the bit for a year now to come out and say, look at how good this guy is in camp. And now it's like, he's been fine.
Yeah, for sure. So let's go moving in the best case scenario. I mean, Trey, who's still there? George Kittle, star. Deebo Samuel, star. Nick Bosa and Fred Warner on defense, stars. And Trent Williams still blocking at left tackle. I mean, you got pieces there. The other thing, too, they're the 4th most injured team in 2021.
Yeah.
Like, this team's been an infirmary. If they can get even average luck, they're going to be really good. I mean, they've been banged up. That secondary was terrible the last few years, just a lot of that due to injury. -4 in turnover margin last year. They got unlucky with a lot of the fumbles, didn't take a lot of away. But they have the 13th easiest schedule. So I think best case for them is things go their way, both luck-wise and injury-wise, and they win the division. I think that's best case scenario. Shanahan's owned McVay head-to-head, especially in the regular season. And I think everybody's healthy. Everybody's ready to roll. This team wins the division. Trey Lance is awesome. And they're contending for another NFC championship game.
I'll take that a step further. I know it sounds crazy. But best case scenario is they run the ball down everybody's throat 20 times and they hoist a Lombardi trophy. Like it's the reality of the situation. And I know That may sound ridiculous, but I have a ton of faith in the way this scheme is going to look with Trey Lance. I will get into what I actually think is going to happen in the realistic expectation, but I think best case scenario, they run for 220 yards a game on everybody. And you can't do anything. And the defense is physical, and they, what the Browns were pretending to be for the last few years, the Niners are.
I think worst case scenario here, Trey Lance looks really lost, and you're kind of starting to question, man, oh man, did we make a mistake here? And not just that we make a mistake on a kid. I mean, you draft number 3 if you're a rebuilding team, and you kind of swing and on a quarterback like Trey Lance, who only played 1 year, kind of sit him down for a project, and it's like, okay, we're rebuilding still. Oh, it doesn't work out. Well, that's fine. San Francisco's not in that position right now. They're looking to compete and win Super Bowls now. So if all of a sudden Trey Lance looks like he can't play, and you're like, why the hell did we just give up Jimmy Garoppolo, who we've been to a Super Bowl with, we've been to an NFC Championship with, and is very well liked in that locker room? I think that could be an underlying issue within that building. If, hey, we just made a massive mistake on Trey Lance. We gave up a ton of draft capital for him, and he doesn't look like he can handle this.
That's exactly
I think that'd be the worst. Record, I don't think is bad.
They're going to be
the worst case.
Passable, right? They're still going to, even if, Trey Lance isn't a good passer, they'll play the Cardinals to a 20-17 game, in the middle of December or whatever. But this is absolutely the worst case scenario. Maybe Trey Lance sucks. Like, maybe all these intangibles and these traits that he has that we never really realized as far as passing the ball, maybe they're just things that happen at the FCS level. Like, if he can't read a defense, it doesn't matter, how many yards you run the ball for a game. You're going to be playing from behind. You can't win every game 10-7. I think worst case scenario, we're talking about this team next year, as lost. Debo, you got a wide receiver with a giant contract. You got nobody throwing the ball. Kittle's getting older. This thing hasn't worked. Shanahan can't win the big one. What are we doing?
Realistically, I think Trey Lance is going to be good. Kyle Shanahan, no matter who's at quarterback, and while I gave you that record, he still made the game easier for quarterbacks. If you look at completion percentage, expected completion percentage, whoever's back there, I'm talking Nick Mullins, CJ Beathard, go down through the whole list, who was ever filling in for Garoppolo when he got hurt. He's made the game easier for his quarterbacks. Now he gets a mega talent in Trey Lance, who I don't think talent-wise he's ever had, save maybe Robert Griffin III, but we saw how that career ended. Trey Lance may be the best one he's ever had as him being hands-on with the quarterback. So I expect Trey Lance to have a big year. I expect him to look good and competent, and I expect this offense to continue to churn along in the 49ers machine to put up 9 to 10 wins, compete in the playoffs, and maybe if they get hot like they did last year, they can wind up in an NFC Championship game again.
And I think realistic expectation is that Trey Lance looks kind of like Jalen Hurts last year, like maybe a little bit better as a passer, because I think he is a little bit better as a passer. But there's just so much that you can't learn through practice, right? And it's very rare that these guys come in and light the world on fire. Don't let Justin Herbert and these guys fool you, Joe Burrow. This is not like these rookie quarterbacks going crazy isn't the norm. And I'm treating Trey Lance not as a rookie, but there's going to be some growing pains, obviously. And I think they're going to be a playoff team. I think they're going to be good. It's just realistically, I think they'll probably make it to the second round of the playoffs, maybe win a playoff game. But is that an upgrade over where they were at a year ago? The answer is no. So that's what 49ers fans kind of have to grapple with here.
Arizona Cardinals, what an interesting offseason for them. Kyler Murray drama. I don't want to be here. Trade. I hate the organization. You guys use me as a scapegoat. Meanwhile, DeAndre Hopkins gets suspended for 6 games due to PED use. They got in trade for Marquise Brown because Kyler Murray went to college together. You got rumors coming out, even Cliff Kingsbury's 4th season here. If it doesn't go well, he may be fired. That's what's been surrounding this Arizona Cardinals team this offseason. Not to mention, you lose Christian Kirk. You lose Chase Edmonds, who's their best running back last year, advanced metric-wise. Chandler Jones is gone. Jordan Hicks played 97% of their snaps at linebacker last year. He's gone. Max Garcia, guard, out. There's a lot of things going on here, and not a lot of things are good for the Cardinals.
This has got to be the most frustrating team to be a fan of right now in the NFL, because you look around, right? And there's good skill position players, and there's good, there's just good football players on this team. The defense got worse. You lose, two of the biggest contributors that you have on that side of the field. And then on offense, it's like Christian Kirk's a meme now because he got $72 million and everybody freaked out. But Christian Kirk's a good player. Like, he shouldn't have been paid what Jacksonville paid him, but he was going to get paid by somebody, obviously, right? I mean, I don't think Jacksonville just goes to 72 if there's not something else out there for him. That's going to be huge because I don't think Rondale Moore is going to be a very good pro. I think he'll be fine. But the guy they took in the first round a year ago, undersized receiver, speedster with the average depth of target last year of like -2. Like, he was behind the line on almost everything he caught. We don't even know if this guy can, run routes in the NFL. I think Arizona has so many questions, and you just have to be – no team in the NFL pisses me off from an outsider's perspective more. I'll say that.
Plus 12 in turnover margin last year, 3-4 in one-score games, 2-1 in field goal games. The variance is not on their side if you're coming into this season. Then you just combine it with all that drama. And then we saw what happens when Kyler Murray gets hurt, and it happens every year. We saw what happened when DeAndre Hopkins got hurt last year. The wheels just fell off, and now you're losing him for 6 games. Is Kyler Murray's head going to be in it? We will see. But best case scenario for me, listen, they piece it together. Cliff and Kyler finally piece this thing together. They ride their hot starts like they've had for the past 2 seasons and actually maintain it throughout the course of the regular season. And this team looks good. I mean, Kyler Murray, when he's focused, when he has time to throw, even when he's outside the pocket on movement, planned or not, is a top 3 quarterback in the NFL based on all the stats and metrics. The question is, can this guy stay healthy? If not, we're going to see a lot of the backup QB. Can he find open receivers and targets at a high completion clip without a true number 1 in DeAndre Hopkins? I don't think Marquise Brown is that, but let's say he can. Let's say they piece this thing together. I honestly think best case scenario, playoff team for the Cardinals. They're back in. They look competent, unlike they did against the Rams, and they're coming away with like, hey, we can build on this. Maybe Cliff's our guy. Kyler's definitely, we just paid him all that money. He has to be your guy. And you just kind of continue to build on that. I think that's the best case for me, that the Cardinals actually look competent down the stretch of the regular season.
Yeah, and I think that's a good way to put that there, because I was just going to bundle best case and worst case into the same thing here. I think there's a really good chance that the Cardinals are really close to who they were a year ago, and now we're a year older. We're still not sure if this Cliff Kingsbury thing works, and we're scrambling, right? We're answering a bunch of questions. It would be easier for them if they won 5 games, and then the decision gets to get made for you. By a general manager and Steve Keim, Michael Bidwell, the owner, haven't made very good decisions, over the last 15 years, right? It's not like this is a short thing. I think it'd be best case scenario would be, we get a definitive answer on what this team is, but I think a lot of what you just said to me, it might be worst case. Like, if they're the exact same team as a year ago, what do we do next year? We run it back again, probably?
Probably.
And then what?
Who knows? I mean, they're fighting. I mean, Keim and Kingsbury are fighting for their job. They're tied to Kyler Murray, and all of this is hinged upon, can Kyler Murray play quarterback at a high level in the National Football League? And
does he want to? Right? Like it's so many questions with this team. I just think best case scenario is we get everything answered, and worst case scenario, they could go to the damn second round of the playoffs. And I think next year we're just like, what the hell? What are the Cardinals? Are they good or bad? What are we doing?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great way to look at it. I mean, for me, I'm going to go a little more extreme. I mean, worst case scenario for me is, this team just implodes. Flat out implodes. Kyler Murray gets hurt again, just doesn't care. Now you got all that money tied up, and somebody doesn't want to be there, and you just continue to tank, and you look horrible. And then at that point, you're married to a guy. You probably have to find a new coach that needs to coach Kyler. I think that would be bad if you had to go find a new coach that needed to coach this guy. Maybe he doesn't even like him. Like, who are you going to go hire? Somebody from college again? Like, it's just, I don't know what this team can do. And if they implode, I think that's I think it'd be bad, because you're starting over at your GM position. You're starting over at your head coach, but you already got your quarterback. So So you got to go find people who like the guy. And I don't know if there's very many people who necessarily would put their reputation on the line for Kyler Murray at this point.
And I want this on the record that you beat Colin Cowherd to that take by 18 months.
Yeah, you like that?
Because he's going to say, you're not going to find a guy. It's going to be hard.
Realistically, what do you think for this team, Tyson?
8 or 9 wins.
Me too.
Somewhere around there, just missed the playoff. Look really, really good at some points during the year and look like dog shit at others. And I just think that this is the Arizona Cardinals experience. So we could go into X's and O's and who's like what the roster construction is. But what it boils down to is like this is a worse version of the team that you just had. Like I've seen the movie, right?
Yep.
This one the sequel always has a worse ending
and a worse cast, and that's what this team has.
It's just a bit, it's just a bit much. I think for them to be, they're just in no man's land, and they won't make a move definitively one way or the other. The Kyler contract was kind of one, but then the owner or somebody willingly puts out the clause in there, the no study thing, and then they remove it a day later. But it was supposed to be seen. We were supposed to see that. So they're already fighting. It took 12 hours, and they're already at each other's necks.
It's a mess. It's a mess. Speaking of messes, Seattle Seahawks. Now, if you don't know what's going on there, you lose Russell Wilson. He was done with the organization. They were done with him. Amicable divorce in some sort of way. Did finish the 2021 season with a 7-10 record. Didn't make the playoffs. First losing season for Russell Wilson and Pete Carroll combined for them two as a pair. Pete's still there. Russell Wilson's gone. They brought in Drew Lock in the trade from the Denver Broncos. Shane Waldron, OC, is still there, and they've got a new defensive coordinator supposed to bring in some new schemes. That by the name of Clint Hurt, who is the D-line coach as well. Chris Carson retired, the running back. Dwayne Brown, offensive tackle. Left tackle, gone. Bobby Wagner, we mentioned him with the Rams. He's out. Carlos Dunlap, the edge rusher they traded for some picks for, gone. He's with the Chiefs. This team's going to be bad. I think people know they're going to be bad. Like you said at the start, I don't know if the Seahawks know they're going to be bad, but the real question is how bad are they going to be?
They're going to be atrocious. I think they, top to bottom, like you can point to DK Metcalf can't throw himself to football. Tyler Lockett can't throw himself to football. Right? On defense, we got a bunch of bodies, and we're trying to see who works and who doesn't at this point. And, I said it tongue-in-cheek a little bit, but then we get Jimmy Garoppolo and Seahawks front office meeting. Like, the Seahawks don't know they're bad. They don't. They're Pete Carroll is 70 years old, 71 years old. He's like, fuck your rebuild, dude. I don't have 7 more years to wait until this thing works. Let's go out. Let's get a quarterback, see what happens. And it's just, this roster is so bad. They'd be so much better served going into next year trying to, have a chance to put yourself in a position to get a C.J. Stroud, Will Levis, Bryce Young, somebody. But they're trotting this thing out there, and I think they're going to, try to win football games.
Yeah, they're going to try. I think they're going to be bad. And like you mentioned, they're trying to get some young pieces in at the same time. Though, I mean, Charles Cross, left tackle. Why didn't you address this position when Russell Wilson was younger? I mean, come on. It's crazy. And then you finally get Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, and then you start running the football with Chris Carson, who was fine, Rashad Penny, who's always hurt. And then, so what are you going to do now? Let's just go draft another running back, Kenneth Walker. Like, it's crazy. I mean, they just don't know what they're doing. It's Groundhog Day there.
Top 40 or top 50 pick in the draft, they take a running back with so many other holes on the roster.
Yep.
Those are the moves that you look at and you go, oh, this team doesn't think they're bad. Like, this team thinks they're going to win games. And, getting back Drew Lock, a Drew Lock, Geno Smith quarterback competition sounds like the worst. That's the worst idea ever.
Well, some more points. We're getting the best case, worst case. I think variance is going to be huge here. 6th healthiest team in 2021. They're a +5 in the turnover margin. Obviously, Russell Wilson, he only threw 7 interceptions. They took away 11. That's not good. And they have the 11th toughest schedule.
11 interceptions on the year.
7 interceptions. The defense took 7. Yeah, or 11 away. Yeah. So, 11th toughest schedule. based on win total projections, who they're facing. This is going to be tough. This is definitely going to be tough. So
everybody else win total gets boosted because they have to play the Seahawks.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, but still, I mean, so what do you? All right, so best case for this team. I mean, we shit on them for a little bit. So if everything goes right for them this year, what do you expect would happen?
Absolute top end best case is that Drew Lock beats Geno Smith in the quarterback competition, and you can flip him in a year for a second or a third round pick. Like that's absolute best case is that Drew Lock looks passable as an NFL starter. That is so far from the realm of possibility that I didn't even really want to say it, but there's not a lot of best cases with this team. Like they're not going to win 7 games again, right? Russell Wilson was bad last year after he kind of came back broke his thumb, I think. But the team as a whole was bad. So Russell wasn't like atrocious or anything. It was just more of the same, running for your life. And this time he had to make a lot more questionable decisions because they were losing by so much. So best case to me is they can figure out, who's here for the long haul. And, honestly, best case is DK Metcalf stays happy because I know he just signed a new contract. A year from now, the NFL moves like dog years. A year from now, he might be like, dude, I got to go.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, best case scenario with you bringing over Noah Fant, you have Tyler Lockett there. I mean, is he going to be there at some point throughout the season? And then DK Metcalf, let's say the weapons look good. And you're like, hey, even with Drew Lock here, or let's say, God forbid, Geno Smith, beats out Drew Lock, the weapons look great. And you're like, okay, well, all we need to do is get a quarterback in here. We're kind of set, especially if we can get into the 21st century and start throwing the football around. The offensive line, maybe they're young and they look promising. Charles Cross is a bookend tackle. That'd be good. So best case for me, the pieces look good and they look formidable and they're like, okay, we can rebuild this roster slowly. I think worst case for me, Tyson, is if they do win games this year and somehow they find ways to win and win close games and they kind of muck it up and they get really lucky and win games they shouldn't. That's going to bring them out of that quarterback situation where you're competing. You want a top 3 pick this year because you got Bryce Young and CJ Stroud. Those are the blue chip guys. If they win too many of those, I don't see this front office trading any sort of assets to try to trade up for a quarterback. Doesn't fit their MO, so it needs to basically fall in their lap for that to happen for them.
Yeah, and that's kind of the reverse of what I just did with the Cardinals there, but I agree with that as well. I think worst case would be, they're not bad enough. They're not as bad as they should be. But I don't think they're going to be. Like, I think this team stinks on paper, but I think exactly what you just said is probably going to manifest itself this year where they're too well coached and they're too scrappy, right? And they go out and they win 4 games and they pick 4th. But I can't really talk myself into – like, I think this team on paper is probably more talented than the Falcons. And I think that they're a lot worse at losing than the Falcons. And I think we're going to get a couple more of those teams, kind of Houston and those guys, jump into that really bottom tier because they know how to do it. They've been doing it for years. Seattle, they're never sellers at the deadline. They're never buyers at the deadline. They just kind of passively float through the NFL season. But they've had an all-pro quarterback behind center for, 8 years. So it felt like, oh, they don't need to make any moves. They got Russell Wilson. Now it's like your entire ethos as an organization has to change for this to work. Like you can't run this thing back. You don't have any of the guys that you built this thing with, and the guys you have to build a new foundation suck.
Yeah, I mean, realistically for me too, what I expect them to be a bottom 5 team. And just for the things that you just laid out, like they're not going to be aggressive one way or another at a deadline where they can acquire assets and really lean into a rebuild because Pete Carroll doesn't want to at this point, and it's not something they want to do as an organization. Realistically, I just don't think they're going to have the talent. They're not going to have, I think, the mindset of competing in a 21st century NFL where passing is king, and Drew Lock is going to throw too many picks if they do decide to do it. So I expect them to be bad. I realistically think they're going to be bad. And the bad to me is bottom 5 in the NFL.
I think bottom 5 is where I'm at with this team too. I'm closer to, bottom 7 just because I think they are going to accidentally win games. The tanking is a real culture here, people. I know it's fun and, in the NBA because it's blatant. But in the NFL, there's some teams that they can sneak by you real fast because they're always trotting out a new rookie at quarterback, right? It's like, well, we really wanted to see what he had. So you lost 63-7. You did that on purpose. And I think realistically, Seattle is just going to be atrocious. And it's going to be one of those things where it's not going to get better. I think Seattle's here to stay at the bottom for a while.
Okay. Well, that's going to do it for our NFC West preview. If you haven't seen our NFC South one, go check that out. That's up right now on our YouTube. As always, we appreciate you guys watching. Like, subscribe, and share. Follow us on social media and everything listed below. We're going to have a ton of content coming out, a lot more stuff gambling-wise as well. Expect that down the line. So we're going to give you win totals, player props for the season, everything under the sun, division winners, all of that. So make sure to like, subscribe, and share there. Tyson, anything before we get out of here?
I mean, we're doing the Pac-12 on Thursday. We'll record Thursday, so you'll probably get it Saturday or so as a listener or whenever that comes out. But we're running through the college ones here too, just kind of ramping up. We got the Hall of Fame game on Thursday, so it might not feel like it because it's 100 degrees outside, but football is around the corner, brother.
Absolutely. We can't wait. We're going to continue to take you through all these divisional previews. Until next time, everybody. Peace.